Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special episode of The Nerdy Novelist. This is my very first interview on this channel, and I'm extremely excited to have Tim here from Tim's channel is Theoretically Media, which is one of my absolute favorite AI related channels out there. He gets really in depth on a lot of Midjourney and video and other cool storytelling platforms that use AI out there. And I watch pretty much every video that you make, Tim. You do excellent work, very professional looking too. And I'm very excited to have you here as my very first interview on the channel. So welcome, Tim.
Thank you very much. That's it. It's exciting to be here. I'm glad to I'm glad to be the inaugural launch of your guests on your show. If I had some champagne, I'd bash it against my camera.
Well, thank you. So why don't we just go ahead and get started and tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into AI.
Sure. So my name is Tim. I have a channel called Theoretically Media that deals with AI, mostly from a very creative standpoint. That's my focus and area of interest. So professionally, I've been working, I guess, in entertainment, I guess you could call it, for pretty much my entire life. Either I've been playing in bands, I was in Hollywood for a number of years producing videos, EPKs, electronic press kits, if you guys know that, behind the scenes stuff. Like when you watch the DVDs, DVDs. When you watch the DVDs, kids, do you remember what DVDs were? When you watch a DVD and there was how this was made, I made a ton of those. So yeah, that was pretty much my background. I did movie trailers, movie posters, a very, very sordid career in Hollywood. Through that all, I was still, writing, of course, uh, creating music, just all everything sort of in the audio, video, or I guess audio, video world, really. Um, and then my wife and I had kids, so we moved back east because anyone that lives in California will certainly be aware of housing prices there.
Mhm.
So I got a gig here teaching for a little while, and then ultimately that kind of it sort of dovetailed into the channel, which originally actually started off as a music channel. If you go back really early into my videos, you'll see some tutorials on a music software called Ableton, which is a DAW, a digital audio workstation, where I was doing production tutorials on that software. Uh, I would say probably around, I guess it was November of 2022. I started seeing on the music side, I started to see what was happening with Stable Diffusion uh, and music coming together. I was like, oh, this is really interesting. So as I was looking at everything, and not to say that November of 2022 is exactly when I got into AI. I was already dabbling with it
Mhm.
from Midjourney version 3. But as I started seeing the potential of what that early version of Stable Diffusion music can do, I kind of saw the writing on the wall. Like in November of 22, I'm like, 23 is going to be the year of AI. And I don't think I've been proven wrong. I'm pretty sure that,
I
you
don't
know,
think so. Yeah.
yeah. So by March of 2023, I think that's the month that I really chart as when everything just went ballistic. I think March of 2023 was when the entire world sort of woke up and was like, "Oh God, AI is really here, isn't it?" So,
Yeah, and I think you said November of 2022.
mm,
That's when it started to wake up for me because it was around that time. Well, obviously late November, it was when ChatGPT came about, and then
mm,
around that time is also Midjourney version 4,
4, right?
and I believe like those two were very close together, and that was when I was just like, oh my gosh, this is
Hmm.
going somewhere big.
Yeah.
And then you're right, March I think was when we started to see things heat up between Google and Microsoft, and
Hmm.
it's just really taken off since then.
Yeah, that there was a week in March, I think, where I don't remember the stories that were coming out, but it was like every day there was just a massive bombshell where you would wake up and be like, "What is going on?" Like it's
I
it's just it
know.
was like this nexus point that was just crazy. So
Yeah, there was just news every other day pretty much,
mhm.
and now it's every other week, but there's still a lot of news.
Yeah, there's a lot of news. Yeah, I mean that's the thing is that on the channel, I've been trying to do one sort of deep dive tutorial type video a week. Like today, I posted Pika Labs,
Mhm.
which is the AI video generator. I posted up a deep dive tutorial on that, and then usually I'll try to do one other news video a week. And there have definitely been times. So I'll probably shoot the news video tomorrow, and I'm always after I finish shooting one and editing a news segment, I'm like, well, I mean, I have nothing to talk about next week. Like nothing, there's what if I, and then inevitably by the time, you know, the 3 or 4 days of the next week roll around, it's like, oh, I have a full docket again. So like, yeah, you're
Oh
never
yeah.
at a loss of things to talk about with AI right
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. So you've been doing, obviously a lot of videos, like you said, Pika Labs, a lot of videos about AI video. Then you also have a couple of videos on other, you've got a bunch on Midjourney
now.
and other cool tools out there. I really liked your video about comics.
Oh, yeah.
You had one recently that was about a cool tool for comics, and just in general, many of these tools that you're focusing on, that I'm focusing on, are all very story heavy, like
Mhm.
storytelling tools. You talked about your background at Hollywood and things like that. And so I really like to talk a little bit about where you see the future of storytelling going, because, from my point of view, everything's changing, everything's going to continue changing. And so what's your view on that? What are you looking
So
at?
ultimately, I think I'm a big story guy as well. I've been an avid reader my entire life. I wrote comic books. We can get into that later on if you would
Hmm.
like to. I read, I've read most of the books on storytelling. Including there's a really earlier video that I did as well that detailed Robert McKee's story. If you've ever read that, which is a
Mm,
fantastic book.
I know of it.
That's
Yep.
yeah, it's screenwriting focused, but really like even if you're not into screenwriting, his opening paragraph, like just next time you find yourself at a bookstore and story sitting on the shelf, just pick it up and read that first chapter because it's the most inspiring thing any writer or storyteller can ever read. It's just he
Mm,
begins literally at the with cave drawings and takes you through
yeah,
like the noble weight of needing to tell stories as part of the human condition. It's a great
very cool.
opening and guaranteed when you get to the end of that first chapter you're going to be like I need to get home and start writing immediately. Like this is my purpose in life. But I think that story is not going to change that much. I should say there's still going to be a three-act structure. There will still be a beginning, middle, and an end. There will still be framing devices. There will still be eloquent prose to take you
Mhm.
through the insights and inner lives of your protagonist. So I don't think necessarily the idea of story will change because that's inherently baked into our human condition. The technology in which these stories are delivered, that's the thing that I do think we'll see a difference in. Um, the yeah, what's the word that or the phrase I'm looking for? I guess the mediums. I guess especially
Mhm.
with things like Pika and Gen 2, there are new opportunities for people like me. I mean, I've got a drawer full of old screenplays that that probably they weren't very good. In all honesty, that was all stuff that was in the 10,000 hours of ass and chair, typing to try
Mhm.
to get passable. But I would love to take snippets of those and turn and visualize them, create them. And I think that there's a really great opportunity for writers or storytellers to basically create. even just now, where we are right now, I think this is a great time that you can sort of concept out something where you've got this idea for a story. Does it really work? Well, let's try making a little scene out of it and see if it holds together. And
Mhm.
you could do 5 of those in a week, and just and maybe even show them to your friends and family. Which one of these do you like the best? And it's fully voice acted. It's fully
Mhm.
it's fully act. It's narrated, the whole 9 yards. You could easily pull 5 of those off in a week, and then sit down with some people and say which one of these do you think is the best, and start workshopping it from there, or at least know what. Because I do think that that's actually, it's much easier for your friends or family to, instead of like, can you read this 1 page synopsis on the story that I really want to write? Like, no one, they're but can you watch this minute-long video and
Mhm.
see if you like this? That much more apt to do that. So
That's interesting. I hadn't thought of it very much as a way of validating ideas like that. But I could totally see that being a really good use case for AI, is saying like, because it just eliminates the amount of time spent and everything that you can just, like you said, just throw together a couple scenes like that in a week and then test them, see which ones seem to resonate more with people, and that's great. Do you
Mhm.
think we'll see AI start to take off in like a big way, like maybe like I don't know if you've seen Corridor Digital
Yeah,
and the AI videos that they've put out there.
yeah, the AI
Like
anime ones, like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Like I kind of see small studios like them eventually, especially once these tools get much better, um, putting out entire films, entire TV shows using nothing but AI, or maybe not nothing but AI, but heavily augmented with
Right.
AI. What are your thoughts on that?
So I will say that those guys, and I do love them. I love that channel, and I love, like, yeah, I love the work that they do. They're always it's a little on the disingenuous side when you watch those, and they're like, hey, we're this happy VFX crew, and we just whip this together. It's like, yeah, you're kind of
Yeah,
leaving out the fact that that was like 120 hours worth of manual labor, like,
right.
or
No, there's
technical
definitely a
labor.
lot of work that went into it.
Yeah. I mean, I think they've gotten a little bit better about it. I've definitely seen some videos where, but it always makes me laugh when, you're seeing them, like, it's like 3 a.m. There's like a desk surrounded by Red Bulls, and, like, they're just like bags in their eyes, and they're like, we're having so much fun making this. It's great. It's so easy. Like, um, so, but I think that they definitely go to show that, yes, that totally can be done. And I think that, like, you'll definitely see a good wave of those. I think of, I guess, is Adult Swim even on anymore? Is that even a
I
thing
don't know.
anymore? Yeah.
I
I
feel
mean,
like it is, but
I know, maybe, I don't
I
know.
gotta
I don't
watch
know if
it.
they, yeah. It's been a while. We cut cable ages ago, so I don't know if the Cartoon Network. Maybe somebody could tell us in the comments if the Cartoon Network is still doing Adult Swim. But those, I think, like, there's definitely going to be a huge market of that happening at some point. And I think somebody will figure out how to harness and capitalize on that, be it online or be it stream. If Netflix has some sort of, like, what they did, love, was it Love, Sex and Robots? Is that it? Is that the one that they have
Yes,
on?
yes, on
Yeah,
Netflix.
on Netflix, which I do. I love that show too, because it really reminds me of Heavy Metal. Like those sort of
Mhm.
like anthology, just mini sci-fi-ish stories. Yeah, I love that format. And I would love to see something like that with a bunch of AI creators, where a bunch of studios, small studios, are creating, stories that have a place to live. That would be that. And I do see that at some point or another happening. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we're definitely getting into that age of experimental storytelling using those AI tools.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, everything right now. We just came out of what I like to call sort of like, it's not even early Fellini. I don't even know what you would describe it as, um uh like Buñuel, I guess, like when Che Andalou. Like, we're very much coming out of, like, it's like dawn of cinema, and then French surrealism. Like it's like
Mm,
that's what AI video is right now. It's caught somewhere right around there, but I think we're just starting to move out of that phase where you're not. It's not so crazy. Like early Pika and early Pika more than Gen 2, but I mean that was just so prone to people like literally teleporting in and then smoke vanishing out all within like 3 seconds, and then like a mime in the background with like a knife through its head, and you're like, I didn't prompt any
yeah.
of this. What is this?
Yeah, it was
So
very strange.
yeah, but I mean, I love that. That was the stuff that was like, I thought that was so cool and weird and experimental. Like, yeah, that stuff was fantastic. But I think we're actually starting to come out of that age now, particularly as you scroll through and you see these Gen 2 trailers, which are all these, it's I keep calling it the sci-fi zombie apocalypse trailer. It's everybody's got the trailer music, and then it's just a bunch of people doing this
Hmm.
like towards camera, like all like center framed because they're doing Mid-Journey images. So yeah, we're in that era now. So I think we're going to come out of this era, and within the next like 3 months, I would say. I think once Mid-Journey nails consistent characters and consistent locations, you're going to start seeing some really, really pretty interesting stuff happening.
Yeah, and just the rate of acceleration that we're seeing with all these tools. And I also want to clarify briefly for those who might not know, Gen 2 is a video AI platform, and
Mhm.
Pika is another video AI platform. I'd say they're probably the two biggest ones right
I
now.
would
Would
say,
you
yeah.
agree?
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Um,
both went from there's a moment, I think early, well, but for both, they both started as straight text generation platforms. So you would have to input your text in, which actually that was the funny thing for me, as sort of being kind of half a computer guy and half a writing guy, is that when you were prompting for these videos, or even in Mid-Journey, there was a part of me that I think I natively kind of got understood how it all worked. I think from comic books, in all honesty, because
mhm.
although there are these sort of perimeters um, that you have to deal with, because they're all based in a program called Discord, which I'm sure most people
Right.
watching this know. So you'll actually have to put in commands from time to time, like in Mid-Journey, you will have to /imagine, and that creates a prompt box. But you have these controls like --AR for aspect ratio, or there's a --weird one where you can make the image weird or not weird. So there's a little bit of a programmatic aspect to it, but at the same time, you still have to tell a story within that. So it still has to be. There are frameworks like it's a cinematic still, but it's a clown, in a raincoat, standing in a graveyard with lightning flashing as a dog whimpers. You still have
Mhm.
to sort of craft a narrative to the bot. So you're still. It's weird because I think that if the better you are at being able to communicate what you are trying to accomplish to the machine, like the better the results. So it actually, no matter what, I still think it takes a writer to write AI. Like, as
Yeah.
strange as that sounds, you know what I mean? Like, yeah,
No, I
that's the
absolutely
point of your
agree.
channel. My God, oh, my mind is blown.
Yeah, like absolutely, because I think anyone who has worked with AI in any extended capacity understands that it's very much an interactive process
Mhm.
between um, the author and the tool, the AI, and it's very much like almost like having a ghostwriter that you're working with, who, on the one hand, is very fast and can get you results instantly. On the other hand, has to be very acutely micromanaged. um, and so it's this very interesting balance. And I know there's like a lot of questions right now about copyright and who owns copyright to these things, because anyone who's worked with AI knows like there's a lot of human guidance that goes into it.
Time, yeah.
And it's like you're saying, you can't, like, you have to tell a story even in the crafting of an image or a video prompt. Like, you're telling a story that is all human driven
Mhm.
and AI generated. So
By
actually,
all, my whole
Go ahead.
copyright rant. So my whole copyright rant of late has been like, um, if you're not a lawyer, stop talking about it. Like, just yeah, like you if you are a copyright lawyer, I would love to hear. I would love to hear your opinion about it. If you're not, just shut up. Like, just either don't use AI or use AI, and just and stop. Like, because none of that should matter. If you're an artist that wants to use AI, I get that question all the time on the channel. Is, I'll post up a tool and somebody will be, like, am I allowed to copyright this? And like, I'm not a judge or a lawyer. I don't like go. Like, I don't care. Go make it. Sure, try. What it doesn't matter though. Like, the bigger thing is like the real trick of it, and I think that most of people watching this will understand this as well. Is not like, is it copyrightable? It's, will people even want to read this? Like, can I get anybody to watch this or read this? Because that's the tough part when you're an indie artist, is like gaining an audience and getting momentum on a project, not can I copyright this and protect myself? Because it doesn't matter. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
ultimately, like, there was, if somebody's going to rip you off, what was the woman that sued the Wachowskis for the Matrix? I don't even remember if she won or not,
Oh,
or if they settled with her. I
yeah,
don't
I don't
I
know.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I know that it definitely made news and whatnot, but I mean, like, for the most part, if somebody is going to rip you off and turn your project into the Matrix, well, that's probably a good problem to have.
I know.
Like, you're going to make money out of there somewhere. So yeah, I think that getting caught up in the legalese and what's going to happen with the copyright in the future, it's pointless worrying. There was an old saying, worrying is like paying for a, or I'm sorry, screwed that whole thing up. Worrying is like paying in advance for a check that never arrives. So, just don't
Hmm.
worry about it. Just make your thing.
Yeah, I love that. It's funny you say that because um I recently just filmed a video about copyright.
Oh, did
So
you?
that'll be
Sorry.
it'll be out by the time this interview goes live. But
I mean,
um
punditry wise, I mean, because I still do follow it, but again, don't listen to me because I'm not actually a lawyer. Is that my current understanding of it is that, as long as you can copyright it, as long as it's demonstrably um, changed by human
mhm.
hands or whatever it is. But like, what does that mean? How do you quantify what that means? And there's no way that you can do that unless you want courts deciding what is art and what isn't art, and that is always a giant mess. So,
Yeah.
just
And it's particularly hard with AI writing right now because if I change a sentence or two every other paragraph, like, is
right.
that enough? Like,
Hmm.
and how would you, like, you can't really track that very well, like, I don't know which parts I edited and which parts I didn't. And
Sure.
but it just it's the way it goes. And at some point, particularly with writing, I think it's going to get to a point where, like, how are they going to tell? you
Yeah.
know
I mean, did you hear the Stephen King quote kind of recently where he was just like, I don't care. Like, I no longer, I don't, I might, he was full on like, I might as well be a Luddite trying to smash up, carts. Like, there's just no stopping it. It's no big deal. Like, so yeah, that's
yeah.
where yeah. I will say that I think that, in terms of, it does a fine job with writing as currently. It has that limitation. I think, I know there's, you probably know better than I do. I know that there's some tricks in terms of, with GPT-4 in particular, because it really does start to lose its mind when it crosses that 70,000 character limit or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I know you can kind of feed it back into itself, like you're making a sourdough bread, to get it. But I mean, I'm sure it kind of loses its mind again at some point or another. And you kind of have to keep it on
Yeah,
track.
there's some tricks to it. I think the one that people are actually using, well, it's probably more of a 50-50 split between authors, but Claude has been used a lot these days because it has that 100K token limit.
Which I just used the other day, for the first time, because I went to ChatGPT for something and it was down again. So I was just like, you know what, Claude? And there was something like, just in terms of how It's simple. It's just such a dumb like thing, but just how the text kind of flows across, like it's just like I find that so elegant. That's so much nicer than Chat GPT, and it's free. So I might be canceling my Chat GPT subscription pretty soon. I have found
Yeah.
it's been a little bit on the weak side lately. I don't know if you found that or not, or if it just seems to not.
ChatGPT or
Yeah, Chat GPT. It just seems as not as sparky to me anymore.
maybe it's the all of the enterprise clients that they have now.
I could be, yeah. I mean, I could be hitting it at the wrong time, and it might just be. There is a factor that I might have just lost the wow factor with it, that which
Hmm.
happens as well. You know, it's like those that honeymoon phase of like, oh my god, it's a computer talking to me, and now it's just like,
Yeah.
why aren't you completely rewriting this exactly how I want to off this one word prompt that I gave you, Chat GPT? You're supposed to
Yeah.
be amazing, aren't you? So I
Yeah. I
think it
look at
might
some
be
of
a
the
little bit of
stuff.
that.
Right. I look at some of the stuff that I wrote early back with 3.5 before GPT-4 was out. And I look at it, I was like, this isn't great. Like it was
Yeah,
amazing at the time.
at the time, right?
But there's definitely some of that wow factor that is uh, kind of gone away. The main, just to get back to the writing thing,
Mm,
the main technique that I teach on the channel, and I think a lot of authors use, is basically starting small, like just a concept, and then expanding that into a synopsis, and then
mm,
expanding that into an outline, and expanding each chapter of the outline into like a full list of beats.
okay.
And then you can take ChatGPT or Claude, or there are other tools out there, to take those beats and turn them into finished prose. And
Mm,
it does a pretty effective job if you're good with it. And Claude has the best natural language, so it requires, at least for me at least, uh, requires less editing.
mm.
But it's also more creative, so it will often, I mean, that's a good thing, but it will also often veer away from what you want it to do
Right.
pretty strongly. So
There is,
it's like wrangling cats. It's
yeah, and I will say that in my early experimentations with ChatGPT, I guess it would have been 3.5 when I was playing around with some writing stuff, or just in general with AI tools. Is sometimes that those veering off become happy accidents as well, where
mhm,
these things happen and you're like, oh, I never thought about it. Like that could
yeah,
actually be really cool. And suddenly you find yourself going down some weird thread. So.
yeah. It's a fun process and a totally different creative process as
Mhm.
well, that like just would not have been possible before AI, which is one of the things I like about it.
Yeah, I always call it
Um,
it's like working with a really enthusiastic drunk intern. Like, let's you got to kind of keep it focused. It's really, really happy to be there, but at the same time, it really doesn't know much about the thing that you're trying to do. So,
right. Yeah, I like that. I like that interpretation. Um, so I want to talk just a little bit. I've kind of touched on it here and there, but you have a background in Hollywood,
mm,
and there's this Hollywood strike going on right now.
right.
There's some controversy about that with AI being not the only thing that they're worried about, but it's one of the big things. Worried that this big studios will use it to replace writers in various capacities. And so I
Mm,
wanted to just get your thoughts around some of the controversies around AI and how we can deal with them, move past them,
mm.
etc.
So, just to preface, like I am pro writer. I am pro
Hmm.
WGA in this. Many of my friends still work on films and TV shows. I bet they're on strike right now. There are WGA members. Um, my personal take, and I don't have any inside information on this, just to be clear, either on
Hmm.
the producer side or on the writer side. But my hot take is that I think AI is a smokescreen issue that kind of got drummed up by the AMPTP in order to essentially, like, their main concern is always money. That's all it comes down to.
Hmm.
And in order to protect money and rates, and the streaming services desperately don't want to give up data on what these shows are actually doing or what numbers they're actually getting. They don't want anyone to ever pierce the veil on
Hmm.
their internal data. So I think when the initial negotiations began with like the writers were sort of like, oh, and here's this AI provision. We're never going to use AI, and just thinking that was a nothing, like a nothing burger. And you know the studios, the AMPTP was like, let's table that for a few years, and that's where the whole thing really started. But I
Mm.
think that the AMPTP really seized on that as a way to muddy waters. You know, I really honestly feel that like when everything comes down, the writers are going to end up with like a nominal pay increase. Data is still going to be protected on the streamer side, and they're going to be like, okay, we're not going to do this AI thing. I don't know if it was ever their intention to. Having talked to a lot of people on the Hollywood side, so not on the writers and actors side of thing, but more on the technical side, people that are editors, VFX artists. Those people all really get it. Like they're like,
Hmm.
oh no, I can totally see this. This is like, it takes me hours to like rotoscope something. This AI tool does it in seconds. Like this is going to
Yeah.
save so much time for me. Like everybody on the technical side really does get it and is wanting to embrace it. The people that are at the high levels of your studio, you know, like what's his face from why am I saying it's not Bob Erzin? That's why am I blanking on his name? He's yeah, okay, whatever. Head of Disney, let's just say, or head of
Hmm.
Paramount, or head of like any of those people at that top line. Particularly at the beginning of the strike, they would have no idea what AI was capable of. You know what I mean? It's just
Hmm.
this blank slate to them, and they really have not bothered to educate themselves on it as well. Yeah, your business tycoon guys, they don't care. You know, like they
Yeah.
don't care what it can do or what it can't do. So I don't think that they're really thinking about it in terms of like, oh, we can use ChatGPT to completely decimate a writer's room and we don't need to ever have writers again.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't think they, I don't know. Part of me just thinks they don't care that much. Like paying, you know, paying writers, which are on the lower end of the salary scale in terms of like above the line production. Like,
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I just, I don't, I see it much more as like this is all kind of a smokescreen to it. And then ultimately, I do think that if you're a writer in Hollywood and you're on a staff, your show should be staffed to the level that you think it should be. And it should be your showrunner's choice as to whether their chat GPT sits in the corner and is used as a tool or not, you know? Because that's all it is. It's a tool. It's not supposed to just crank out scripts and on its own, you know, make me a Matlock episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I know something that I've talked about on my channel, and I don't think this is something that's going to happen too soon, but 5, 10 years out, maybe. Something we've seen in the publishing space over the last 15 years or so is when Amazon opened things up for people, anyone to just self-publish, it
KDP.
really
Yeah.
changed. Yeah, it changed the dynamics between small publishers and big publishers. Like all of a sudden, you didn't need these big gatekeepers to get your book out into the world.
Hmm.
And it caused the market to really niche down. So people would find their little niches that the traditional publishers maybe wouldn't have spent too much time in.
Right.
And it just changed things very dramatically.
Well,
I'm a,
was Hugh Hawley's Wool, was that part of that initial run? Because I
yeah,
know that was self published, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of that lately. And I don't think it's out yet, but there's another self-published book that Apple TV picked up for an adaptation. Um, I don't know what they're calling it, but the original book was called Fat Vampire.
Mm,
Um,
I like it.
yeah, um, and that one was self-published like a decade ago, and it's got the guy who plays Peter Parker's friend in the Spider-Man
Oh,
movies.
nice. Ned. Yeah.
Ed, yeah.
Ed, yeah.
So yeah, we're seeing more attention there. But anyway, my point with all that is I think the AI and a number of other things out there too, like various VR tools and um, the volume,
Yep.
things like that, are going to be driving costs of filmmaking down to the point where it might actually open things up for more independent creators to do more big budget stuff that
Mhm.
and challenge the big film studios in a way that self-publishing kind of challenged the traditional publishers. Um, what are your thoughts on something like
Yeah,
that?
agreed. Like I do think that all of the pieces are very close to being together. Right now, I think with all of our various AI tools, to get something that's really, really polished and happening, um, you're looking at a max limit of somewhere around 2 to 5 minutes right now. I mean, like you'd be really pushing it to try to do. I think a full feature movie is kind of out of the question currently
Mhm.
with the way the technology is right now. But I think it's perfect for
Yeah.
shorts. Although there are some lunatics right now that are like I say lunatics because I love them that are literally taking Terminator 2 and they've broken it down into 50 different segments and AI artists are actually creating their own version of Terminator 2, wholly generated by AI. That's the whole thing. You have to prompt your own video. You have to create your own music. You have to create your own voices via AI. You're going to do the entirety of Terminator 2. They're in
That's fun.
progress. I think they just got started. It should be pretty amazing.
I'm excited to see that. That reminds me, I think someone did something like that with Star Wars.
Mhm.
This was before AI, but it was people would just recreate several seconds of a shot in various ways
Yeah, I mean, it's going to
and stitched
basically.
it
I
all
mean,
together.
watching it is going to make you feel like you're on drugs, but like I think
Yeah,
it's going to be really cool.
yeah, it should be pretty fun. Cool. I can't. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it certainly has a long way to go. That's why I say like 5, 10 years maybe we'll be
Mhm.
getting to that point. But I do like I point people to look at Midjourney and just how far Midjourney came in a single year,
Yeah.
and I think we're going to see that with video
Mhm.
pretty soon over the next year or two. Um, and yeah, it's just kind of cool
Well,
to imagine where things are going.
and I guess for your audience too, that's actually something that I think that they should be adopting those tools because I know that that's even just in pitching to publishers. I remember that a hot thing was the video trailer. If you could put a video trailer together for your
Mm,
for because no publishers didn't feel like reading pitches or synopses. It was just sort of like just like I just want to watch a movie with your title treatment and give me the gist
mhm.
of it. So I mean that's another good outlet for you guys. Or if you're independently publishing to make a YouTube short or Instagram or whatever that kind of details your character and your world or whatever. And then, if you can funnel that off to wherever you are independently publishing as well, just getting more
Yeah, just
eyes.
using it for little marketing materials and things like
Hmm.
that. I did something like that just as an experiment. I did not really a trailer, but just a little promotional piece with some Midjourney images.
Hmm.
I wasn't using any AI video tools. It was just like a slideshow. Um, but it put one video on TikTok and it did pretty well.
Yeah.
But at some point, I'll have to think of how I could scale that a little bit more.
Hmm.
But yeah, lots of cool possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, we have a few minutes here, so I have a couple of other. These should be shorter questions for you.
Okay.
But first of all, do you have any favorite AI writing tools that you use right now?
Not particularly. I mean, I think I'll kind of use a Bing. I missed out on on Sydney Bing when the weekend that they launched Bing and
Hmm.
Sydney was going insane. That would have been actually and like telling people she loved them and threatening to kill people and
Yeah.
I mean just being a completely homicidal maniac. That would have been my favorite writing tool in all honesty is just talking to an absolutely psychotic AI bot. But in general, I mean, ChatGPT 3 and 4. I've used it. I've used it to kind of play around with story ideas. I
Mhm.
do enjoy that aspect of it. There was a pretty good one. I think in so I did a video in 3.5 when that was around. Um, it was a video that sort of in my older style where the movie adaptation, the Spike Jonze movie with Nicolas Cage. I don't know if you know that movie.
Hmm.
Um,
I've heard of. Haven't seen it.
okay, so in it, it's a fun movie in which the writer Charlie Kaufman, the actual screenwriter of the movie, is hired to adapt Susan Orlean's novel, The Orchid Thief, which is a real book.
Mm.
And the movie chronicles him trying to adapt the book. He's played by Nicolas Cage. Um, and he's trying to break the story of the novel that he's been hired to adapt. And then meanwhile, you have another narrative of what's actually happening in the novel. And then in the meantime, the writer, Nicolas Cage, also has a twin brother who is fictitious in real life, named
Mhm.
Donald. Um, and the whole thing is very meta in terms of like talking about the art of story, adaptation, how you adapt something, how Hollywood wants to screw up the truth and beauty of a novel. That's right. It's a great movie. I highly
Mhm.
recommend it. But in the movie, Nicolas Cage's twin brother, Donald Kaufman, who is fictitious again, decides he just gets in his fancy that he wants to be a screenwriter too. So while you have Charlie
Mhm.
Kaufman, the actual writer of the movie, slaving and just dying trying to write this perfect gem of a screenplay. Donald is just like, I read a book and now I think I got it. So I want to make this serial killer cop movie. And, he has the easiest, breeziest time doing it because he's just using this static formula. So over the course of that, my experimentations early on, I was like, what if we actually wrote Donald's screenplay for the serial killer movie, which he kind of has some details and outlines. He talks about it through the film. They never actually fully flesh out what the story is or anything. You just kind of have these like little clues, like when he comes to this, this realization that he's got the perfect twist ending, that the victim, the cop is chasing the serial killer, and the serial killer, they're all the same person. It's brilliant. Like, I mean, it's a
Wow.
completely cliched, terrible, conclusion to a movie. So I decided to task ChatGPT. I'm like, we know that there's a horse chase in it. We know that like he wants this. The handful of things that we found out about it, and then I went through and experimented with ChatGPT to see if we could create a story out of it. And like, surprise, it did do its thing where it was like losing its mind, would lose its place, and all of that stuff. But some of the stuff that it would come up with was actually like, oh, that's actually a really good idea. Like in forgetting things sometimes, like it would like the fact that they were all supposed to be the same person, the killer, the victim, and the cop are all the same person. It forgot at the end and had the victim and the cop walking out of the house together. I'm like, but they're all this. That's not. Oh, that's a good idea because it kind of leads you into this idea of like, oh, now like the victim is like kind of like a ghost to this guy now. Like he just lives with, he just lives in his head now. So yeah, it was like it kind of comes up with some pretty interesting ideas in its failures. Like that's what I get out of ChatGPT or using GPT type programs. It also came up with a really funny. At some point, I was experimenting around with like what would a zombie movie from the perspective of a dog look like, and it decided to title it "Paws of the Dead," and I love that. That. Bravo, bravo.
I think the favorite one I've seen, instead, it was a Fast and Furious title, like an alternate title for Fast and Furious 10, and it was Fast 10 Your Seatbelts. And I was like, yes, that is
it,
beautiful.
it is so good at puns. I'm telling you, like it is
Oh,
the
it's great
like.
at puns.
Oh my god,
I don't
ChatGPT is the
know. I don't
ultimate
know
dad joke
how.
machine.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, it's like you said earlier, happy accidents, right?
Happy accidents, always,
Sometimes
yeah.
it can. It's really good at those things. All right. So, what about just in your regular day-to-day activities? What kind of AI tools do you actually use?
Not really. I think I spend so much time with doing these tutorials and videos that I'm in, Kika, Midjourney, Gen 2, whatever, 11 Labs, HeyGen was the latest one,
Uh-huh.
the video cloning one. Yeah, I think I'm in them so much that, yeah, there really isn't anything that I particularly like usually when I'm done, I'm done. Like I'm just
Mhm.
like even tonight, I'm just gonna go to the couch and I'm gonna watch Ahsoka. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to deal with anything. I don't want to type anything. I don't want to be near a active screen. I just want to zone out and eat some popcorn and watch some Star Wars.
Well, that's probably a healthy thing right
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Just stay sane.
right.
Um, who is your favorite author and why?
Oh, I would say lots. Over the years. It's. I was thinking about this question, and it's funny, and I think that I would probably have to say that if there is an author that is profoundly, uh, weighted on me, it would be Stephen King, just because I literally I've been reading him my almost my entire life. I think my first grown up book that I ever read was Misery, and yeah, and have basically yeah, I mean, I've been reading the dude my entire life. I know he's not the most popular author to say. I think that sometimes
Mhm.
you get that sort of like hipster cred of just like, oh, him. Like, I mean, the dude is the most. I think isn't he the most? Has he been? Well, I mean, he's got to be at least the most famous author in the world today.
I'd say
But
definitely, yeah.
yeah. And listen, I mean, I'm not. I've been reading him long enough that I can. Like he doesn't always. It's not always a home run. Like, I mean, he's got some zingers. But yeah, I mean, it's just like there's something very sort of, I don't know, just comforting, I guess, in reading his novels. Just even though like you eye roll a lot of times through his little colloquialisms, and his little just it's Uncle
Yeah.
Stevie. It's like, all right, settle down. But yeah, so that would. I don't know if he's necessarily my favorite author, but he's definitely the one that's had the most impact on me. And through him, there are just countless other writers that I ended up discovering, because he is a bit of yeah, he will hand out praise pretty easily, like it's the greatest book this year, Stephen King. Like you see his blurbs everywhere. So,
Mhm.
but I mean, through that, I've discovered a number of like Justin Cronin, who did The Passage, the terrible Fox TV show, but rather really good Vampire Apocalypse trilogy. That those books were really good. And that was one that old Uncle Steve was just like, these books are great. I'm like, all right, I'll check them out. And indeed,
Hmm.
I did enjoy them quite a bit. So
Yeah, I read Stephen King relatively late, because I wasn't much of a horror fan, but at some point, being an author, you're just like,
mhm.
I probably better read something of Stephen King's.
Sure.
And then I did, and I actually quite enjoyed them.
Which one
And
did you read?
first one I read was it was actually Carrie, because I
Okay.
wanted to sort of start at the beginning.
Mhm.
And I read a couple of others. There were a handful of short stories of his that I read, and I can't remember for the life of me what the name of the one was. But I read this one short story, and it's one of the few times where I've actually stayed up most of the night
Mm.
so I could finish it. That hardly ever happens to me, but it was
Right.
such a good one. So I could finish this short story. It was, yeah, it was great. And
Yep.
people, he's not just a horror writer. If people
Mhm.
don't like to read horror, there's other things he's done, and I find him to be actually a genuinely good writer most of the time,
Mhm. Yeah.
with
I
the
mean,
occasional colloquialism.
yes. um, yeah. I mean, but there's. I mean, I do run the gambit of sort of the. I guess whatever popular nerd writer is kind of happening. I'll always like John Scalzi. I've read a bunch of his stuff.
Mhm.
Who I enjoy. Patrick Rothfuss, of course, with the two books. Yo is the third there, Pat. And
Maybe
yeah,
he can use AI.
yeah, right. I mean, I'm sure somebody has tried. Has somebody actually? I'm sure somebody has tried to write that third book. I know a bunch of people did with George R. R. Martin's the sixth and seventh book. But I actually read some of that output, and it's terrible. I mean, it's just awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Um, So you actually mentioned earlier that you've written some screenplays.
Mhm.
Have you ever thought about publishing those, or maybe turning one or more of them into a book?
Though a lot of them will probably. There was one that I had written that I'll probably do something with soon on the channel. Actually, it was kind of in that era of when all of those, like, it was like Get Shorty was happening, and that kind of like late '90s, early 2000s crime films that were
Hmm.
second wave Tarantino movies. If if
Yeah,
you remember that, like Lucky Number 11 and
yeah,
all
yeah.
of those, like, yeah, those the sort of B Tarantino movies. I had one that was called Blood on Vinyl, that was about a guy that owned a record store, and mobsters and the whole 9 yards. And that's one that I had just started playing around with again, with probably adapting, like I was telling, suggesting to you guys earlier. I think I might use that in demoing one of the AI video tools and turn that into a trailer for this movie
Hmm.
that never got a chance to be made. So that's one. Yeah, other than that, there's, on the comic book side, there's a comic I did, that was published by a publisher called Monkey Brain. That it was called Henchmen Inc. So it was all from the perspective of the henchmen of the various supervillains. They were all sort of analog villains for Doctor Doom, but it was all like DC and Marvel mashup. So you would have like a Doctor Doom character, and you would have a Joker character, and
Hmm.
that sort of thing. And the idea behind it was that, uh, like, because my question was always like, why would anyone want to be a henchman for the Joker? There's like a solid chance he's just going to kill you. And the solution that I came up with was that it's a temp service. So these guys are all hired out nightly to go do this thing. And so we followed the story of one of them, that has always hated the whole superhero thing, but he gets out of jail on the second of three strikes, to find out that his girlfriend is now pregnant and he's going to be a dad. So he tries to get a job as an ex-con. He can't land anything, and then he finds this henchman job, which is kind of skirting the line, but at least it's paying him money. So yeah, that was I had been thinking about Dustin, because we only got 2 issues off on that. The first issue really just acted as a pilot, and the
Uh-huh.
second issue, what was our? Oh, it was a Mysterio villain. That's what it was.
Uh-huh.
And then the third one was supposed to be our big like Joker reveal. And I never got a chance. We never did finish that. So I had been thinking about, using Comic Factory, which was the comic tool that we had used previously, or that I'd showcased previously on the channel, and doing something with that. So I don't know. I might actually do it as an experiment on the channel, and if it actually looks fruitful, I might actually do something with it from there. So we'll see.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
But as far as writing a
That,
novel, I don't think so. I mean, I don't
right.
have the time to do that to begin. I don't have the time to
Right.
rewrite it at this point. You know what I mean? Like, even as
Right.
fast and as easy as things get, because I know that it's not really easy. It's actually still a ton of work that you put into it. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, it is. AI certainly helps, but it can only get you 50% of the way there at most, and you have to take it the rest of the way.
Mhm.
That's a cool idea, though. I would watch that
Yeah,
or
it
read
was
that.
fun. Yeah, yeah. I will
Um,
send you a copy of the first issue. It was fun. Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will make sure to have a link to your channel in the description below. But do you want to just let people know how they can get in touch with you, see what you do?
Sure. So the channel is Theoretically Media,
Hmm.
youtube.com backslash. At
Yeah.
Theoretically Media. You can also, I'm on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it this week, as I think it's Theo. Am I Theo Tim AI? What am I? Hang on a second. I don't know. I don't know my own Twitter handle. What am I? I am. This is embarrassing. I'm Theo Media AI on Twitter.
Okay.
And yeah, those are pretty much the 2 places that you can find me.
Great. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking and nerding out about AI with us here. And hopefully, maybe we can have another chat sometime in the future.
No, I hope so. And actually, it's awesome that I got to be your first. From here can only go up. The next guest is just going to blow me out of the water, so it's perfect.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I get to be an opening act for someone. So,
But I want to thank you so much for agreeing to meet, and because it's been a lot of fun.
yeah, no, 100%. It has been a blast.